Hi, it's the M.L.M for the Soul channel, and I just want to say, if you've never watched this channel before, I now have 50 videos. This will be 51, and I want you to check out my first video, because if you've never watched them before, you don't know what this is all about. And M.L.M does stand for something, and I just wanted to make sure you know what I'm doing before you start watching my videos. And I just want to say before I begin, and may the words and expressions of my mouth and the thoughts and meditations of my heart find favor and acceptance before you, Hashem. And also some people I want to thank who have helped me on my journey and been very influential. And I will have links to their sites below this video. They are Rabbi Shalom Arush, Rabbi Lazer Brody, Rabbi Yosef Mizrahi, Rabbi Eli Mansour, Yuval Ovadia, Alon Anava, and Rav Daniel Asor. And now the topic for today is called The Bigger Picture. So again, I'm referring to this wonderful Artscroll Tehillim. It's the Interlinear Translation, and I'll have a link to their site as well. And also all the Pesukim, all the verses I'll be using. It's from one Perek chapter. And the Perek I'm referring to is Kuf Yud Tet, which is 119, which is actually the longest chapter in the Tehillim. It's, I forget how many exact verses it has, but what it does is it goes according to an alphabetical arrangement and has 8 verses, for each letter. And what these verses do, they describe the ceaseless striving to faithfully live a Torah true life, regardless of time, place, circumstance, or social environments. That's important to remember, that that's what we strive to do, regardless of anything else that happens. So I'm going to be going through some of the Pesukim, some of the verses here that relate to the topic that I've created, the new topic. So first Pasuk we're going to look at is Mem Tet, which is 49. If I can find it here. Okay, Mem Tet. Okay, it goes like this. Zechar davar la'avdecha al asher yichaltani. Remember the assurance to your servant by which you gave me hope. So, and then it continues, Pasuk Mem Tet and Nun, so 49-50, it's a combination. Zot nechamati v'ani ki imratcha chiyatni. This is my comfort in my affliction, for your word preserve me. So the words Zachar Davar and Zot nechamati v'ani, remember the assurance, this is my comfort in my affliction. There is no suffering that cannot be mitigated by viewing the immediate situation in the larger scheme of things, which Hashem has assured leads to the person's ultimate benefit. So again, let me repeat that. It's very important. So this is the explanation that's underneath the Pesukim. There is no suffering that cannot be mitigated by viewing the immediate situation in the larger scheme of things, which Hashem has assured leads to the person's ultimate benefit. So what it is you have to look at the bigger picture, like I say, is don't look at what's occurring right now as like, oh, why is this happening? Well, we can't doubt Hashem knows what He's doing. So we have to look at the bigger picture. In the end, it's going to benefit us. In the end, will be like, wow, now I understand. Now, we may never understand in this lifetime. We may have to wait till we come to Hashem in Shemayim, and then we'll understand. Okay, then the next pasuk is Nun Gimel. That one goes like this. Zal afa achazatni me rishaim ozvei toratecha. Trembling seized me because of the wicked who forsake your Torah. So when it says trembling seized me, when I contemplated the shocking devastation that will eventually befall those who have abandoned your Torah and now dwell in tranquil prosperity. There can be comfort for the pain suffered in exile by those who have remained loyal to Torah. But there is no comfort for the tragedy of those who have abandoned Hashem's Torah in the trials and tribulations of that exile. So that's what we're dealing right now in this day and age, the time of Mashiach, speedily in our days, M'her b'yameinu, that people are unfortunately, as much as there are people who are becoming Baalei Tshuva, who are returning and finding that living a Torah true life, there are still a lot of those who are abandoning it because they don't want to deal with all these issues. It's too much for them. When, that's what you have to do. You have to sustain. You have to be strong. This is the time to be strong. So those who abandon the Torah right now they seem to be tranquil. It seems to be, okay, life is okay. Not for everyone. There's people I know who are dealing still with a lot of trouble sometimes, and I try to get them to make the changes, but they're not. They just seem to be what they call too, quote, too busy. And the problem is that never ends. That cycle keeps continuing. So the idea is the people who are abandoning it in the end will suffer, and it'll be too late if they wait, if they don't start doing it now. Okay, the next pasuk is Nun Vav at 56. Goes like this: Zot haitali ki fikudecha natsarti. All this came to me because your precepts I guarded. So when it says because your precepts I guarded, David was talking about David M.L.M, King David, asserts that all the prestige and grandeur that he has achieved in life results from his unswerving loyalty to Hashem's precepts, according to Mitsudos. Oh, and I didn't mention before, the last one I talked to was Maharam Ara Ma. I want to acknowledge who said these if there is the information there. It is the height of short-sightedness to think that abandoning Hashem's Torah can bring in its wake any advantage of lasting value. So that's why he says he guards, David HaMelech has guarded the precepts of Hashem. So everything he's achieved is from his loyalty to Hashem. So everything he attributes to Hashem, not anything to himself. So thinking that leaving the Torah will give you any advantage in the end, no, it will not, because that's what we're supposed to follow. The Torah is our guide. The Torah gives us what we need to do in order to live our lives. Okay? The next pasuk is Nun Zayin 57. That one goes, Chalki Hashem amarti lishmor dvarecha. My portion is Hashem. I have pledged to keep your words. So when it says my portion is Hashem, what is he saying here? Though others spend their lives in pursuit of physical pleasures, I have chosen Hashem and his Torah as my lot in life. So that's the idea, is you choose, there's a scale between which one do you choose. I mean, we still live in a physical life, but the idea is choose the Hashem and the Torah as your lot, as that is what is going to benefit you in the end. That's where you want to head towards, because in the end, that's all that's really going to matter. Okay, the next pasuk, Nun Tet 59. Chishavti dirachai, I considered my ways, v'ashiva raglai el edotecha, and returned my feet to your testimonies. So when it says I considered my ways, what is this talking about? My decision to follow the Torah way was based upon a reasoned evaluation of the various possible ways of life. An objective analyst must admit the superiority of the Torah way. David also asserts here that he constantly reevaluates his ways to ensure that he is not veered off course and to make correctional maneuvers if necessary. So what is this telling you? That he's always thought about what he's doing, and he keeps evaluating. That's something we need to do on a daily basis, really, so that we know that what we're doing is according to Hashem's ways. Like, it's basically like go through it in your head and say, okay, what am I doing? Am I speaking nicely? Am I showing kindness? Am I davening with kavana? Am I doing more mitzvahs? Am I, keep thinking in your head, am I doing all this? Is it proper? Is it acceptable? And that's what David HaMelech did. And he evaluated it, and based on his evaluation, that the superiority of living the Torah life it's the most important thing. Okay, the next pasuk that we're going to read is Samach Zayin, which is 67. Samach Zayin. Terem e'ene ani shogeg v'ata imratcha shamarti. Before I was afflicted, I erred, but now your word I keep. So when it says Terem e'ene ani shogeg, before I was afflicted, because of the rigors of Torah study, I erred, according to Mitsudos. One cannot truly comprehend the laws of the Torah unless he invests great time and effort in their study. Alternatively, this refers to the affliction of suffering. Suffering causes a person to be more vigilant in the performance of mitzvot, and thus rescues him from error, according to Rav Hirsch. So what is it saying here? That he was afflicted, I erred, but now your word I keep. So meaning, you have to invest a lot of time and effort into understanding what you're doing. And so this also refers to the affliction of suffering, because the suffering makes you even more vigilant to perform the mitzvahs. So that helps you to stay away from erring. So that's the idea of what you want to do. Okay, the next pasuk is Ayin Aleph and Ayin Bet, 71 and 72. Tovli ki uneti. L'man elmad hukecha. It is good for me that I was afflicted, so that I might learn your statutes. Tov li Torah picha me alfei zahav v'chasef. Better for me is the Torah of your mouth than thousands in gold and silver. So the words Tovli ki uneti and Tovli Torah picha, it is good for me that I was afflicted, and better for me is the Torah of your mouth. What is this saying here? It is well worth all the hardships suffered in attaining knowledge of Hashem's Torah and its conscientious performance, whose value far exceeds the material fortunes for which men will often sacrifice their very lifeblood. So he's saying that the hardships that you suffer to gain the knowledge of Hashem's Torah is worth more than anything in the world, any material thing. So the spiritual wealth that you achieve, even from the suffering to get it, is worth more than anything in the world. And think about it. Material pleasures come and go and don't last, and they're limited, whereas the Torah is unlimited. You can never stop learning and understanding and delving deeper. It's endless. You think, Bereshit bara Elokim, the first 3 words of the Torah. I mean, you can study that for your whole lifetime and there's still more to learn. We know so little, so it's endless what we can learn. And the final 2 Pesukim, 3 Pesukim, Ayin Gimel to Ayin Hey, 73 to 75. Let me see. Where are we? Yadcha Asuni V'yachonenuni Havineni ve'elmada mitzvotecha. Your hands made me and prepared me. Grant me understanding so that I may learn your commandments. Yire'echa yiruni v'yismachu. Those who revere you shall see me, and they will rejoice. Ki lidvarcha yichalti, because in your word I hoped. Yadati. Yadati Hashem ki tzedek mishpatecha. I know, Hashem, that righteous are your judgments. The emunah initani, and that in faithfulness you afflicted me. So when it says Yadcha asuni and hevi neni, your hand made me, grant me understanding. Hashem fashioned each person with the talents and abilities necessary to fulfill his or her mission. His or her unique destiny in life. Thus, the Torah, which Hashem has provided as a guidebook to fulfilling that destiny, is perfectly suited to each person's physical and intellectual abilities, according to Rav Hirsch. The question is not whether one is capable of doing something, only whether the Torah requires it of him. If the Torah requires him to do so, he is certainly capable of it. So again, it's saying that Hashem gave you everything you need to do in order to fulfill your purpose in life. And the Torah is that guidebook to help you fulfill that purpose. And it's suited to each person's abilities. And again, it's saying that it's not whether one is capable of doing it, is whether the Torah requires you. If the Torah requires you to do something, you can't kind of say wishy-washy, I don't feel like doing this. It's not really a choice, so to speak. It's like, this is what you're supposed to be doing. And then the words from the next pasuk, where were we? Yire'echa yiruni v'yismachu. Those who revere you shall see me in my glory that I have received from you, and that will rejoice in this clear vindication of hope and faith in God. And finally, before we finish, and I run out of time, the emunah initani, and that in faithfulness you afflicted me. My suffering was deserved, according to Rashi. Its goal is to atone for sin and bring about man's moral betterment. So why we get afflictions is to make us better, to make us wake up and do what's right according to Hashem. And I hope and pray that we all get the idea of what the bigger picture is in life, and through doing the right thing that Hashem wants, we will be meriting to live and see the coming of the Beis HaMikdash, and I pray and hope speedily in our days, and the rebuilding of the Beis HaMikdash. Thanks for watching.